Welcome to Video Games Weekly. I am Paul Charchi, and my co-host is Reiner from Game Informer and GameInformer.com, editor-in-chief. Reiner.
Yeah.
From
Newly
Game
minted
Informer.
editor-in-chief, yes.
Exactly. Was there a ceremonial passing of the baton, the scepter, that the torch from Andy to Andy? Did that happen?
No, it was just kind of like, I'll see you later. All right. See ya.
That's it. All right, everybody, back to work.
All right. Oh, have you played Ghost yet? No? Oh, okay. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Nobody's calling it Shushi or it's just Ghost around them. It's
yeah, Ghost. Everybody kind of pronounces it differently.
It's Sushima.
Sushima.
Sushima? No, Tsushima. I don't know. We will break down Ghost of Tsushima in detail. The Game Informer official review went live today. We'll talk about the 9.5 out of 10 game that will act as one of the big finales for the PlayStation 4. We'll also talk about what we've learned from the just revealed Far Cry 6 and a fair amount, and it looks fascinating, and can't wait to talk about that as well. Nintendo is releasing a $200 Lego NES console. We'll talk about that a little bit. And Reiner, I want to talk about why Sony would invest $250 million in Epic Games for a barely 1% stake in Epic Games. And does Epic Games even need the money? I mean, based on, what Fortnite has done for them. And, so I want to talk through a little bit of that. We've got some other stuff coming as well. We might hit on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Skull and Bones, Flight Simulator, Death Stranding, and a bunch of other stuff over the course of the show, time permitting. But let's start with Ghost of Tsushima. Reiner, we've been talking about this game for the better part of 2 years now. Give people the background on what this game is about, who's going to love it, and what makes it so good.
Yeah, so, going into this release, we thought that maybe it was going to have kind of the deck stacked against it, coming off the heels of The Last of Us Part 2, which Game Informer gave a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
There was a lot of speculation, like, is this going to be like another Days Gone? You remember that game, the open world zombie apocalyptic setting that nobody played, but it had kind of a small following. Like people were like, you should really give this game a shot. It's good.
Well, and that one suffered a little bit from being the 293rd zombie game that has come out in the last 8 or 9 years. And where I think Ghost of Tsushima's maybe struggle is does it feel a lot like Assassin's Creed to people?
Yeah, and that is the case. So it does feel like that samurai Assassin's Creed game that we always thought we were going to get. Mm-hmm. You know how Ubisoft with the Assassin's Creed series is bouncing all over the place in time and setting. And you'd think this, Japan in the 1200s, the Mongol invasion, that would be an Assassin's Creed game.
Yes, very much so. Yeah.
But that has not happened yet, and probably won't for a while now, because Ghost of Tsushima is amazing and it really does feel like that Assassin's Creed game. It borrows a lot. I wouldn't say liberally, but there are ideas that Assassin's Creed has established, be it how you scale walls, like mountain climbing, stuff like that, to how stealth is handled, and even open world exploration. So there's a lot of things here that are going to be familiar to Assassin's Creed players in Ghost of Tsushima.
Style of play too, right? I mean, the setting sure feels like it, but the overall style of play has always had an Assassin's Creed look and feel with the combat, wall scaling stuff. It all had a little bit of that AC feel,
right? But while it's familiar, it also stands on its own in a very, very compelling way. Ghost of Tsushima really kind of gets into the world that you're inhabiting. This place Tsushima Island is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, it's war-torn, so you're going to see both. You're going to see like these sprawling forests with golden and orange leaves. Like every leaf on the tree is this color. It almost feels magical as you're riding your horse through it. And then you're also going to see, these huge fields that used to be farms that have, now just littered with bodies and weapons and destroyed vehicles and stuff like that. Like there are two shades to this world. And there's also two shades to how you play it, right? So you're one of the last samurai. You're Jin. You are a proud warrior, right? Like the samurai are these proud defenders of Tsushima Island. But just being in that role might not be enough. So as the name of the game implies, you can become a ghost and become a dishonorable assassin. And And so you can go into a Mongol camp and just walk down the path with your sword drawn and fight like a samurai, or you can duck into the bushes behind buildings, stuff like that, and silently take out all of their patrols and complete your objective both ways.
And that would be a dishonorable approach in this game. And is there any consequence for going the dishonorable route?
No, but you do sculpt your character in two different ways, right? So you're getting, like most games today, you're gaining experience, you're getting ability points, and you're assigning them. So you want to think about that as the way you're playing the game, the way you're enjoying it, the way you want to sculpt your character, how you want that character to be displayed in the world, right? I don't know yet. I'm still going through it. This game is huge, by the way.
Yeah.
The first act alone, there's 3 acts, just seems to be endless. Like, it just keeps going on. They keep adding chapter after chapter to this act. But now I'm finally into the second act, and it's just really opening up in terms of the world, which from the outset you can freely explore it. But also,
great. So there's no gates on the world, either physical gates, like you just can't go to this part of the world, or what other games like Witcher will do, where the combat becomes a gate, where the combat is so hard not to go into this area because you die instantly.
Yeah, you will see like big Mongol strongholds, and just the scale of them will tell you I'm not ready for that yet. I mean, you could go in there at level 1 and just have your timing be perfect and pick away at them and succeed.
Sure.
But in more cases than not, you're going to perish, right? You're not going to be able to do it.
Have you found have you found that you prefer either the stealth or the action approach?
I really like both. I think stealth is easier, right? Like getting behind an enemy, not having them know you'll take them down right away. The enemies are very difficult in this game. They attack you in a variety of different ways. If they have a spear, you need to dodge that. If they have swords, you might need to parry it. Like, so they have this kind of visual language associated to each weapon that know how to handle those warriors. But when you go against the bosses, no matter what, they are very challenging. You can change the difficulty on the fly if you want. There was one battle in particular, I died maybe 6 or 7 times. I just couldn't get the timing down. So you can bump the difficulty down and then go right back up if you'd like to.
Yeah.
But one thing that really needs to be pointed out is just how much it kind of dives into that Japanese culture, into the artwork, the music, the sights, everything. You'll actually be constructing haikus. You'll go to locations. You'll find these spas that you go to relax. These things all give you abilities and different things that you're collecting along the way. So there's good reason to, go off the war path and find these things, these kind of idyllic little settings to soak in the world and what it means to be someone that lives there.
Interesting. Now, we're talking about Ghost of Tsushima. This is a PS4 exclusive that is available soon.
On Friday.
I was going to say Friday, but I wasn't positive. The review is up at GameInformer.com. Ghost of Tsushima. Talk to me about the side missions, which is a big part of every game and done correctly. Like again, Witcher 3, which had, I think, it's the high water mark in video game history, and side missions can really make or break a game. How do you feel about what you've seen for the side missions? Are we just talking about escort missions and delivery missions, or is it a little more sophisticated than that?
It's all over the map. There's a bunch of them. Like I said, just the main path alone will take you a long time, and they're pretty robust missions with a lot of characters you're interacting with. You're rarely on your kind of own. Even if you're doing a stealth mission, you might have someone at your side, an NPC character. But then there are different side missions that you can kind of go into that give you a little bit more flavor of the world. Some, I would say, are welcome distractions. Other ones, I would say, are just kind of like, well, that's just to get, I just did a mission exactly like this. Picked out these enemies at this camp. So there is a little bit of just kind of fluff to the stuff you can do, but there's a ton of it, right? You just need to maybe kind of take a look at how you're approaching it to avoid that repetition as you go through Ghost of Tsushima.
Mm-hmm.
But no matter what, if you just stick to that main campaign and kind of pick away at the side missions, you're in for a great time. Go ahead.
Speaking of the main campaign, give me a sense of what just the core story here is in Ghost of Tsushima.
So you are one of the last samurai, right?
Yep.
You're felled in battle and left for dead, basically. But you survive, and everyone you worked with before, that you stood with before, is gone, basically. They're just little pockets of what the remnants of the samurai are still left.
Yeah.
So you got to go find those. One of the cool things about the story is it will flash back a bunch. So you'll go to your childhood. You'll go to before you were a samurai. You'll learn about your family. You'll learn about a lot of the things that really make Jin tick. And then you flash back forward to, he's now sworn to defend this world from this Mongol invasion, which seems impossible, right? Like one samurai versus an entire army. And they really kind of dive into that. So you are kind of a rebel, right? Like this almost feels like a Rebel Alliance Star Wars thing where you're picking away best you can, finding those opportunities to strike and really deal them a blow. And I think it's really well written. I love the dialogue in the game and just kind of how it flows. And mission to mission, I think there's a nice variety, and they do a good job of stacking abilities. Like you eventually will get a grapple. So, and that's one way they kind of gate certain areas. Like there might be a mountain that you want to climb, but you can't right away because you don't have the grapple. You'll see the point, kind of like a Metroid or Zelda game. Like I know I'll be able to interact with that at some point. But you just can't right away. So you got to keep going through the game to get things.
When we were looking at Ghost of Tsushima in the years and months leading up to now, we were speculating this might be the high water mark graphically for the entire generation. That there was a chance that it was going to be the best looking PS4 game. How do you feel about it now, having played it? Just talking about the graphics, is this in fact the best looking PS4 game you've played?
If you look at a screenshot, you would say yes. If you go up to a mountaintop in Ghost of Tsushima and just kind of look down into the valley and just see the color and detail that are there, you would say yes. Once you see it in motion, no. I think you look at like Last of Us Part 2, what Naughty Dog did with their animation, and just the little details are leagues better than Ghost. Like that is how impressed I was with Last of Us, but Ghost is still beautiful, right? Like the lighting, the architecture, just the wilderness itself, is gorgeous. And there's always motion on screen. That's one thing I got to point out here.
Yeah, like the waves of grain in the fields are swaying all the time, stuff like that, right? Leaves falling from trees,
and you use that for gameplay. So there are no waypoints. You go to a map and set an actual waypoint. But when you go into the game, it's not going to show you that icon on screen. What you need to do is tap up on the touch screen on the PlayStation 4 controller, and that will make the wind fly, and the wind is pointing in the direction to where you need to go.
Yeah,
so you just get on your horse and just ride.
Ride like the wind.
And there's things like you'll be going through this big flower field, like just gorgeous setting. Like, I mean, as far as the eye can see, flowers, these white flowers all waving in the wind, and Jin will lean down on his horse and run his hand through the flowers almost like he's doing it, like in a boat with water.
Yeah.
Just little things like that they really think about of, you're immersed in this setting, and what would you do in that moment? And they kind of have your character kind of echo some of those things. It's very impressive. I know we have a new generation coming up, but if you have 50 to 80 hours to invest, you got to play Ghost of Tsushima. You can also turn on old school film grain, so it's like a Kurosawa motion picture.
Really? Will it go black and white?
It does go black and white.
All right.
There are things where you have to follow colored pedals that
that'd be trickier.
If you're in this mode, that will be difficult, but it does look very cool. So if you're in battle, you're doing the classic samurai standoff. They even do the camera views where it zooms in on the sword as they click out of the hilt and get into the eyes. You see the sweat rolling down the brow of the characters. They do those close-up shots. It's really well made, and they even got the blessing of the Kurosawa estate for some of these shots. Like, they went to
really?
Him, like, yes,
holy cow!
Can we do this?
Usually, the blessing means money.
Yeah. How much are you gonna give us? Yeah. So that's Ghost of Tsushima. Game Informer gave it a 9.5 out of 10.
Yep, that was Miller. Would you,
yeah,
based on, and you said you're only through Act 1, based on what you've seen so far, and by the way, usually by the time of Act 1, I think you're probably pretty close already on the final score. What do you think you would have given it had you done the review for Game Informer?
I'd probably be around a 9 or 9.25.
Okay.
So, I mean, still, this is a great game. Like, no matter what, like, I'm impressed by it. I like playing it. I don't want to put it down. It's another knockout from Sony. They have been lights out with their first party with the big games this generation, and I can't wait to see what they bring to the next generation. Like, they've just been, and most of these games are single player, which is, I think, is just
I love it.
A statement that really needs to be hammered home about the importance of these types of games and how Sony has really backed them.
Absolutely. And there are going to be people that are going to want to ding Ghost of Tsushima because it doesn't have multiplayer. It's not a multiplayer game. It is a single player game. And the single player games that tack on the multiplayer at the end of the day, like Uncharted, right? Uncharted's a brilliant single player game. And they have the last several entries have had a multiplayer component that nobody plays and has no real longevity to it. Those are resources you don't need to put into the multiplayer that you could be putting into your single player game. It's okay to be a single player game.
Yeah, and I mean, the whole setup is you're one of the last samurai. You can't just have like
a bunch 20 of those running around. Right. The Ghost of Tsushima, read the full review at GameInformer.com and in the pages of Game Informer magazine. When we come back, everything we know about the just revealed Far Cry 6, including the adorable wiener dog Chorizo. Welcome back. Video Games Weekly on the Fan. Paul Charchi and Reiner with you. We just broke down Ghost of Tsushima, an exclusive for the PS4 and one of the best games of the generation. Now, let's turn our attention to Far Cry 6. A couple of days ago, after a series of leaks, we got the big announcement trailer for Far Cry 6 and a lot more information. And before we even get into the game, Reiner, this reveal trailer is the best I've ever seen. I think this is the high watermark for trailers. Maybe any trailer, but especially if I bring this down to like an announcement trailer that needs to set the tone for the world. Oh my God, was it good. Holy cow. The production value, the story, the whole thing. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it reminded me of, there's a lot of TV shows that have those intros that you just don't want to turn off because you like them so much.
Game of Thrones. The intro to Game of Thrones was, compelling every time.
So it uses basically a circle in the middle of the screen, and it moves from like, a drink. You're looking at a drink, top to bottom, and then it turns into a cigar that's being lit, and it just kind of bounces, to a hubcap on a car. But it's in that, of what you're seeing around it is detailing the world and the setting, and it's just so beautifully done with the music. I was engaged the whole time. I was like, wow, they've really nailed this. And it's playing out like a TV show, right? You're seeing the names of the actors.
Yeah, isn't that wild? I don't think I've ever seen that in a trailer. Have you?
Not in a trailer. No, it seems like every time you boot up the game, you're going to see that, right? Like that's what I kind of took from it. Maybe we were seeing the beginning of the game. I don't know. But yeah, that was the perfect way to debut Far Cry 6.
Yeah, I was very, very impressed with the trailer. And that's it's a high watermark. And the company apparently behind the trailer is a company that just does this. And I thought that was pretty interesting, too, that there's a company that basically just does the intro cinematics for TV shows.
I can't even imagine what that must be like with the secrecy around games.
Yeah, no kidding. And TV shows.
Yeah. What can you tell us? Like, will there be a cigar in the game? Can we put that in our intro?
Yeah, right. You'd have to work very closely with it. All right, so let's talk about what we know about Far Cry 6. I'll mention some of the stuff that I know and just chime in anytime you want. Mm-hmm. This we're going to be on a fictitious island in the Caribbean called Yara, and Yara has been ravaged by years under this cruel dictator and economic sanctions from the rest of the world. And there is an uprising in the streets of Yara, and you're going to play as a freedom-fighting liberator trying to overthrow the evil overlord. These Far Cry games always have got these, big evil overlords. And this time his name is Anton Castillo, played by Giancarlo Esposito. Castillo is supposedly trying to restore his country to its former glory and trying to groom his 13-year-old son, Diego, to follow in his footsteps. But this is going to be obviously very complicated with a country that is in turmoil. It's roiling with revolt right now. And you will be playing as a male or female freedom fighter named Danny. And Danny is ultimately going to have to come to some kind of come to loggerheads with this dictator Castillo. Sound right so far?
Yes. Oh, the one thing I got to point out, Giancarlo Esposito is the bad guy from Breaking Bad. Also, the bad guy now in The Mandalorian. One of the best bad guys. To have him be a part of this game is huge. I think, and the detail they have, it looks just like
it looks like him. Yeah, the trailer looks a lot like the actor. They did not. It's more than just voice work. It looks like they did like full facial capturing on him
and animation. And I mean, speaking of his voice too, like, oh, I can't wait to play this. If he's in your ear, over the headset or anything like that the whole time, like, it's going to be amazing.
So Castillo is a cruel dictator, but we're also going to see him portrayed as this loving father who's trying to groom his 13-year-old son to take over. And
loving in quotes.
We think. Yeah, we don't know for sure. We assume so, right? In the opening trailer, he hands his son a live grenade and is basically at the pinnacle of the trailer, basically asking his son to prove that he's ready to lead by throwing a live grenade into a group of protesters.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, the kid's just sitting at his desk listening to his iPad. Like, yeah, it looks wild. And right there, you get that setting of like, oh, he's a father. He's looking out for his kid, and then he hands him the grenade, and you're like, okay, this guy's nuts.
So at some point, we, Danny, are going to have to take down Castillo, the evil dictator.
Yes.
But that's not going to be the end of the story. I think the end of the story is going to be what happens with Diego. And do we end up trying to help install Diego as a new and better ruler? Do we ultimately think that Diego can't be, he's already part of the problem and he's this bad dictator family and he can't do it? He's got to take down a 13-year-old Diego? I don't know. But I think at some point in this game, Far Cry 6, we're going to have a moment of truth with this 13-year-old Diego. This is speculation, but it feels like narratively it's going to happen to me.
Yeah, and I wonder if we're going to move forward in time, 5 to 10 years to see him actually be in charge. You might be right, or it might just be taking down Esposito and saving Diego.
Yeah,
that could be another alternative.
In Far Cry 6, this is, again, we're set in the Caribbean, so you're going to have some jungle, you're going to have some farmland, some beachside settings. But they're indicating that the core game is in a massive urban setting, and a little bit like, it looks to me, based on what little they've shown us so far, it looks to me like Havana, where everything looks old, run down, 1950s era technology and cars and stuff like that. And Ubisoft says it's the largest Far Cry playground that they've ever built. And Far Cry 5 was huge. These games keep getting bigger, and I'm not, we've talked about this before. I'm not always sure that bigger is better on the size of the open worlds. Reiner, they also say the game's going to feature more and better vertical movement. In Far Cry 6, plan to play on rooftops, and I don't think we're going to be scaling walls like, Assassin's Creed, but plan for more vertical movement in the game, and also plan for more stealth options. They've acknowledged, and what fans have talked about for a while with this series is there really hasn't been a meaningful stealth options, and that they wanted to really build that out better. So you're going to see more paths to victory through stealth as well.
Yeah, and Far Cry in the past, they had some fun stealth things where you go to a camp and someone has like a tiger that's caged in the camp.
You're right.
You could shoot the lock.
Right, release the tiger, yeah.
And then they're dealing with the tiger, and you're going in and picking off the people that are distracted. And, there was fun things like that, but they haven't really evolved it since then. It's just been kind of crawl through the hole in the fence and, just go through and pick them off one by one. I hope they really do find new ways to kind of update the stealth in the series. You'd give yourself like silent footsteps, as an ability that just seem like this path that you've been going down in all these Far Cry games. I mean, they pump these things out, right? Like they say it's Far Cry 6, but there have been a lot of side steps as well. be it Far Cry Primal. What was the last one? That was a sequel to 5, right? So the
fact that we don't remember is a bad sign,
yeah,
right?
But I mean, it was Far Cry something. I don't remember what it was, but set in the same world as Far Cry 5. Yeah, they've been churning them out, and I hope that they can kind of refresh the gameplay here with this one. I like the idea of being more in a city setting. Usually you're just kind of out in the wilderness. But, I also like being out in the wilderness in Far Cry. So I'm hoping that they can give it a new kind of coat of paint or breathe some new life into this series. I think right out of the gates, you have this amazing villain who, I want to go against him. I want to listen to him. I want to see, what he's capable of. And that's a great hook to bring players into Far Cry 6. It's sadly not coming this year.
Yep, February, but not that.
Actually, I take that back. We have a jam-packed holiday season.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's how I see it too. In
February,
what are we saying
more
every
games
February?
In February?
Every February, we're like, man, if somebody was smart enough to launch a game right now, everybody's already spent 2 months playing their Christmas games.
Right.
They're ready to move on for a big title in February. That's going to be Far Cry 6 if that holds. So I think it's actually a pretty brilliant date. By the way, the game you're thinking of is Far Cry New Dawn. And if you go back and look all the way to the beginning of Far Cry, you're talking about the cadence of releases. It's about every year and a half on average. You go back to 2004, the first Far Cry, to now, 2021 for Far Cry 6. They've released, I'm eyeballing here, about a dozen games in those intervening 16, 17 years. So it's about a game every 18 months. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, Ubisoft pumps out games, right? Like their big series, they turn them out almost annually sometimes, but they knock them out of the park. That's the amazing thing.
Yeah,
most of their games are just really well done.
And the Far Cry games, for the most part, have been really fun. And I like that I felt like they've always understood fun factor in a game. So I've always liked that. By the way, I mentioned the adorable wiener dog, Chorizo, which now I have to go buy a dog and name him Chorizo, by the way. It's so brilliant. And he's got to be a wiener dog. I now need a wiener dog named Chorizo. You're going to be able, like many of the past Far Cry games, you're going to be able to pair up with an AI companion. It doesn't have to be an adorable wiener dog named Chorizo. You can also get real humans, including a jaded ex-KGB spy. So you're going to be able to play with an AI companion should you wish to as well. All right. That's everything we know about Far Cry 6. Is there anything
I think it looks awesome. I think it looks... No, that's pretty complete. There's little known at this point, just 2 really great trailers that you can watch to kind of bring you into the game.
I like the setting. I'm really optimistic about Far Cry 6. It looks good. We've got plenty to get to in the final segment of the show, including Sony's $250 million investment in Epic Games. And by the way, how little you get for $250 million these days. Nintendo's got this new Lego NES console. I want to talk to you about that. I remember one of my trips into the Game Informer offices. Somebody had, and it might have been you, but I don't think it was you, Reiner. Somebody had the Millennium Falcon Lego. Millennium Falcon. The thing was gigantic. Do you remember this?
Yeah, I think that might have been Matt Miller who just reviewed Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, I think it was Miller. Yeah, that thing was epic and incredibly expensive. Speaking of expensive, we'll tell you how much you're going to have to pay for this NES Lego console when we come back to Video Games Weekly on The Fan. Final segment of Video Games Weekly on The Fan. I am Paul Charchian. My co-host is Reiner. And I know that there are a wide swath of video game fans who also love Legos. And the Lego industry's become, it started as something that kind of only kids did. And now it's become a pastime that lots of people do. Parents with kids or just adults just don't love Legos. And the Lego builds have become incredibly sophisticated, including this new one. Nintendo is releasing a Lego NES, original NES console next month. Reiner, depending on who you believe, it's either $200 or $229.
The trailer for this new Lego NES console has the person that builds it
blowing on Legos, a Lego cartridge.
See, you actually make the cartridge, you make the console. It is life-size, it appears. You also build a TV charge that has a little crank on the side. And what you do You remember those old picture box kind of things that kids would have where you'd spin the crank and there would be a marionette that would animate?
Kinda.
So in this, you spin the crank and there's a Mario sequence that plays out. So as you spin it, this, I don't know what you'd call it, this circular thing inside of it spins. And you then get to move Mario on the other side of the screen with a little hook. You're moving him as he's platforming through the world, and it looks like you're playing the game.
Right. So you're basically spinning a Super Mario Brothers style landscape with the blocks and the mushroom guys and the stars and everything. You're spinning that across the screen, and then you get to articulate some movement with your little Mario figure up and down and around the screen. It's pretty cute.
The amount of detail and the ingenuity, how they put this
together.
Somebody
loved this. Yes.
They always blow my mind. Lego, I mean, even just the standard Star Wars sets, how they make the ships look exactly like the ships with so few pieces is mind-blowing.
Well, this is not a so few pieces build.
No.
This Nintendo Lego NES console is 2,646 pieces.
Yep, that's a serious build, and what Lego builders love to get. And by the way, this is, I would say, mid-scale.
Oh.
They have sets that are $400, $500, like you talked about that Millennium Falcon. This is right in the middle there. But still, getting that many pieces, that's going to take you a good day of your life to put that sucker together.
So here's what you're going to be building with your Legos if you decide to get the NES console. You'll be building the NES console, the controller with a connecting cable and a plug, this retro TV, a Mario figure, and you're also going to be building the actual game cartridge that you put in. And I think there might be a couple of them. I'm not positive about that. And then also, for those people that have purchased the Lego Super Mario Adventures pack that comes with this Mario figure, this big Mario figure, it will interact with this release and do some special sounds and stuff that when you use the TV, it does some kind of interactive things with it. So if you buy both ends of this Lego Mario thing, you can have some interactivity between them.
I love that they're looking at making these playable like games, right? Like they're really latching onto that element of the video game culture. They're not just sets, you know. Yes, they look cool, but they want you to interact with them.
Yeah, for sure. Sony has invested $250 million in Epic Games. Now, most people know Epic Games are. Let's just refresh people's memory. These are the people that have most recently done Fortnite, but before that had a long series of successes with Unreal, Gears of War, Shadow Complex, which, God, I would love to have another Shadow Complex. Yeah. Man, was that a good game. So good. And you might be thinking, all right, you're Sony, you're Epic Games, you've got Fortnite. You don't need the money. You know, Fortnite's doing really well for them. The $250 million gave Sony a 1.4% stake in Epic Games. That's it. That means that Epic Games believes they have, and well, apparently they're right. They have a company valuation of $18 billion if you extrapolate
How about that?
$18 billion. You know, we're only 4 years removed from Microsoft buying Minecraft for like $2 billion.
$2 billion.
Or $3
yeah,
billion.
$2 billion.
And our minds were blown at that time. Now
Disney bought Star Wars for $4 billion.
Right. Yeah, even more absurd.
And I mean, you got to think a lot of that $18 billion is Fortnite.
Oh, for sure. Well, although the Unreal Engine and the Epic Store, to me, this is the fascinating part of this deal. Because if you're Sony, you know, Fortnite's already on the PlayStation, right? It'll be on PlayStation 5, you know. So there's a question, what's in it for Sony and what's in it for Epic Games? So let's start with this part of it, because I think the real value of this investment is in the Unreal Engine and the Epic Store. For the Unreal Engine, which powers some of the best games that are on the PlayStation. You know, remember, it was only a couple of months ago that we were talking about how Epic released that Unreal Engine tech demo that was running on PS5 with that looked a little bit like a Tomb Raider game. And, you know, we're picking our jaws up off the ground going, oh my God, this thing is unbelievable. what the Unreal Engine can do on a PS5. We were just stunned by how beautiful it looked. And here we are a couple of months later, and there's this investment. And so you got to wonder, does this investment mean that the Unreal Engine will be honed or specialized or become the lead platform specifically for the PS5?
Yeah, I don't think so. I think maybe developers might be pushed in that direction a little bit. Like, look how great this is. It works really well. I don't know the back end of game making or anything like that, but it was a compelling first foot forward for PlayStation 5. Unreal is still a household name in game development. And, you know, even us, when we boot up a game, we see that logo on a lot of games we play.
Oh, tons.
It's going to continue being that. But will it be just PS5 or, you know, more on PS5? I don't think so. I think third parties are still going to make their proprietary engines. And when they do use Unreal, it'll probably be, you know, on both. Will it be better on PS5? We don't, maybe.
It might be. That's what I mean. That's why I
Is
called
it geared for SSD? I don't know.
Well, it might be. It should be because if you're building a PS5 game, you know every single PS5 is going to have an SSD. So I would hope that would be the case. I just wonder if it's not going to turn. The Unreal Engine will always work on a variety of different things, but I wonder, or platforms. I just wonder if it doesn't turn the PS5 into sort of the lead platform for the Unreal Engine, and that could be worth $250 million to Sony just by itself. Then there's this. Epic has released the Epic Store, which is the first real competitor to Steam. And it was a rocky launch for a long time, but they've really made some inroads, mostly just by giving away awesome games. Now, Sony in the past few months has started releasing their first-party games and second-party games to PC. They're getting ported to PC, and they're being done well, including Horizon Zero Dawn, which just came out a couple of weeks ago and is beautiful on PC, and it was a great port. So you wonder if these Sony first-party games, when they come to PC, will ultimately go to the Epic Store first.
I don't know if it'll be first or just everywhere. Like, will they also be on Epic Store? It just seems like in this day and age now, you want to get your eggs in as many baskets as you possibly can. And I think that's what Sony's looking at. And having another portal in the Epic Store would be huge. Again, they did just invest a lot of money in Epic, though. Yeah. Maybe they do make them kind of the partner for PlayStation games going on PC. We'll have to wait and see. I think there's some possibility to that one for sure.
Okay, I'll remind people, if you're not familiar with the Epic Store, one of the other ways they've made inroads is they've given away great games, which I mentioned, but also they've had timed exclusives where if you want the PC version of this game, like Observation, which you loved and I played and thought it was really brilliant. For the first year, it only recently came to Steam. It's a game's a year old. So Epic does have a history of buying timed exclusivity for their PC games. So then there's this as well. And this I think is kind of fascinating for Sony. Let's remember, Sony's in a lot of business lines, including music, TV, movies. Epic just hosted a virtual Travis Scott concert from within Fortnite.
It was amazing.
With 27 million viewers, Reiner.
It was
27
amazing.
Million. That's a staggering amount of viewers. As an example, if you were to just what did CBS, how many people watch CBS on a Sunday night? It's like 3 million. So, you can get 27 million viewers for a concert inside of Fortnite. You're moving the needle. And here's Sony, and they've got it with all of their music, movie, TV tie-ins. There's that. Do you think that's part of what might be motivating Sony here?
It could be. Yeah. That for people that don't know, that Travis Scott concert, it was more like you're in the middle of a music video, right? Like they built out the skybox, the environment around you as this moving, living thing where you have these giants, you're still your character in the world and you can move around and play the game if you want. You're not killing each other at this point, but run around the environment, get different positions to view the stuff that's going on. But you have these songs playing as people are dancing around. I mean, giants. These things are like 1,000 feet tall.
Cool.
Around you in the background and interacting with you. It looked amazing. And I was just blown away by that. The amount of work that probably went into that must have been just like building a game. Like probably took them forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was eye-opening. And then you saw the views. Like, that was just live, right? Like,
yeah, right. How many people have watched this Travis Scott concert since then? Yeah, might be another 27 million. The other thing that's interesting for Sony in this investment in Epic Games, and I didn't know this until I dug into it in prepping for today's show, the Unreal Engine is used by Industrial Light and Magic for the Mandalorian. The Unreal Engine has gotten to be so good, and our hardware has become so powerful, you don't have to do all of this special effects processing on supercomputers. Now the Unreal Engine is being used for some of the special effects in these big games, and now here's Sony that may be getting Epic's help for their TV and movie special effects as well by having, the people who made Unreal Engine at their, presumably at their beck and call now that they've, invested $250 million in Epic.
That could be a very real reality here. Have you watched how they made The Mandalorian?
No.
It is basically a sound set with kind of an egg-shaped kind of dome behind the actors where they actually display in high def, I don't know what display, 8K, 4K, whatever it is, the environment. So when you're watching The Mandalorian and he's like in a cavern, he's not actually outside, the actor on some set somewhere. They're in this sound stage projecting this rocky background that looks realistic. And they just change that out. And here's the other thing that they can do. When he's in his ship in space, they actually, when they're doing explosions, they have a controller, like an iPad with different sectors where they can make the explosions go off in real time.
Wow, that's nuts.
So they can sync it up with the movement of the ship, have the explosions go off in different areas, have the actor interact in real time, seeing where they are, where the ships are flying. It is a whole different level of filmmaking. Look it up online. I was blown away because I thought they were outside for most of it on, like Tatooine and stuff like that. But no, they're on this it's not a very big soundstage either. They're on this soundstage interacting with each other with this backdrop there that brings them into the realism. It's not green screen or blue screen anymore. This is the next level. And it's built with Epic, which is crazy.
Yeah. So when I started looking into this investment, I'm like, what's in it for Sony and what's in it for Epic? Epic doesn't need the money. Sony doesn't necessarily. They already have all these assets that, that Epic would have, like the Unreal Engine. But the more I dug into it, the more it did seem to make sense for all the reasons that we just talked about. And maybe over the course of the life cycle of the PS5, we're going to see some real advantages for Sony in these Epic-related games, whether it's Fortnite or just anything that uses the Unreal Engine. We'll find out. Speaking of which, Death Stranding is now available on PC. Now, it came out last November. You were pretty critical of it, and the way you described it was what was told me instantly. I did not want to play a game in which I'm just carrying stuff from point A to point B over some rocky terrain. To me, that is not a very fun game, and I wanted no part of it. Now here it is over, 8 months later, and it's on PC. It just became available on PC. Do you feel like there's any more compelling reason to play it now, or do you have some of the same hesitancy that you had in November?
Yeah, so now it's a very kind of crazy social commentary on our world today where everybody has to social distance. There's an invisible enemy that's picking us away. It really does seem like, whoa, he was talking about the coronavirus and our state of living now. But no, and then, getting everything delivered to you, having these brave couriers go through this hostile terrain of invisible enemies to bring you your goods. I don't know. I couldn't get into that game. I tried 3 or 4 times, Charch. I feel like I got to push through this for the year, and I just couldn't do it. Just having a stack of packages on my back and trying to balance them with, like balancing on a log in games. I just didn't find it enjoyable.
Yeah.
I know people say it gets better as it goes along, but I just couldn't push through it.
And if people have learned anything of your time on this show, if Reiner can't get into it, man, that's damning. Because, I think you honestly give almost every game the benefit of the doubt, which is
absolutely.
I think is great. And one of the great things I love about working with you is that you want to love every game. You have no real cynicism towards games and any of them. And I love that about you.
Yeah. I want to be entertained. That's what they're here for.
Correct. Do you believe video games will remain $60 in the next generation? I don't. I think they're going to go to a standard $70 price.
Yeah. I think NBA 2K is already at that. as the next gen version is $70, whereas the current gen is $60. So I think we are going to see a price hike. We're going to see finally. Like we thought this was going to happen every generation.
Yeah,
for a
it's
long
been 30
time.
years. Yes. So I think part of the rationale is going to be, hey, you want to be able to buy, Assassin's Creed Valhalla in November, and you want to buy it on your PS4, but you also want it to work on your PS5. Well, we got to pay a lot. There's a lot of extra development with that. If you want to have the cross portability and the forward compatibility, $10.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be the excuse.
Yeah, I think we're going to see that a lot.
Yeah, and I shouldn't even call it excuse. Honestly, I just think at this stage, it's probably overdue. I hate to say it. Nobody wants to pay. I don't want to pay $10 extra per game. I don't, but I've been paying $60 per game for my whole life. And it feels like this is the only thing that has had a zero inflationary effect. And that's probably been driven, Reiner, by the fact that we've gone from, when you and I started playing games, there was 1/10 as many gamers as there are now. I mean, now virtually every single person who grows up in America grows up a gamer. So just the sheer size of the audience has been able to maintain the $60 price point. But I think sooner or later, just the cost of development and everything else that goes into it, we're probably ready for the price hike, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla, we just mentioned, and Cyberpunk 2077 are releasing within 2 days of each other. That's that. If you're Assassin's Creed,
both 100-hour games, like this is going to be insane.
Who's buying a? Look, Assassin's Creed Valhalla looks great, and I think we will spend time previewing that game at some point. But Reiner, Cyberpunk is, potentially, and it's super early, and I'm not carving a bust for this thing into the Video Game Hall of Fame, but it looks like it's going to be a landmark, legendary game, and this is the 14th installment of Assassin's Creed, and it's coming out within 2 days of Cyberpunk. Yeah. It's going to get obliterated.
Yeah, or people just going to bounce between them, just juggle 200-hour games.
I don't know. Don't you think most people are going to be like, look, I'm going to play here's what I'm going to do. Cyberpunk comes out November 19th. I'm going to play Cyberpunk all the way to Christmas, and then maybe I put Assassin's Creed on my Christmas list, and then a month and 4 or 5 to 6 days later, I'll have Assassin's Creed to play.
Yeah. I can't wait. I really can't wait. I mean, that's like Christmas for me that week. It just seems like the perfect week for gaming.
Well, especially if November 17th, November 19th, what if that's also tied into the release of the Xbox Series X or the PS5? Which it could be. I mean, these titles, maybe that's part of what these titles are doing, in that they know the release dates for these consoles are right in that window, and so they're trying to time their launch with the hardware hitting. Do you think that's possible? I do.
Yeah, I think it could be the biggest launch week ever if that happens.
Yeah, it could be. Remind me, Reiner, at some point, we have to tell people the strategies towards getting one of these games. Or one of these consoles. Yeah.
One of the consoles,
yeah.
We will go into that next week. Let's do that.
Yep. We're way over time. Reiner, great job today. Thanks for all the help. We'll everybody else, we'll talk to you next week. We'll for more Video Games Weekly and maybe even some console buying guides.